Aggarwal is the founder principal of St. Mark's Senior Secondary Public School, Meerabad, New Delhi. To ASEM, she is no stranger. Under her leadership, the school became an ASEM member in the year 2008. Within 2 years, the ASEM conference was in India with St. Mark's School as the organizing school. Ms. Aggarwal is an eminent speaker in both domestic and international circles. She was in fact a panelist with ASEF in the conference at Zug, Switzerland. Without much ado, I think I should invite Ms. Aggarwal to speak on a very crucial topic, something that is so very required today. Understanding the elements of a holistic learning environment, teaching practices, and tools. So over to Ms. Aggarwal.
Hello, everybody. Ms. Geeta Rajan has just introduced me by mentioning that I'm a principal of a school in New Delhi, India. I would like to just say a few more things, that my school in India is in the capital, and we have a strength of approximately 4,000 students, which is, I know, by standards of other countries, very, very huge, humongous. But still we manage our school, and I am happy to say, and in the best possible manner that we can. So this is about me being the principal of the school, and it's been for the past more than 31 years that I have been heading this institution, and I've learned a lot along the way. And I hope that I can add a bit to everyone's knowledge. I'm sure there are lots of people over here who would know much more on this topic than I do. But I think the best thing about education is sharing viewpoints. So let us begin with this topic. And once more, I would just like to say, since I'm a principal of a school in India, at times I would be sharing the Indian perspective about the education system prevalent here. Of course, education systems all over the world differ slightly. But on the whole, I think we all are aiming for the same thing. And that is to provide the best possible holistic learning environment for our students and using innovative teaching practices and tools. So I would begin by requesting Ms. Geeta Rajan to begin with the first slide, to share the first slide. I have just, of course, in my own words, mentioned what holistic development is. And I think you will all agree with me that whatever we say over here is that we're aiming for the intellectual, mental, physical, emotional, and social abilities in the child. We want those abilities to be developed appropriately so that the child can face the challenges of today and even the challenges of tomorrow. The next slide, please. And here, each of us imagines what an ideal environment can be for their children. And of course, this is what usually experts agree on, generally held to be, that these domains of holistic development should be catered to appropriately in the classroom or even wherever learning is taking place. I think you can all these contribute to a holistic development. Of course, physical and gross motor skills, the first thing which is required of a child to be able. So here we are talking about the domains of holistic development, generally held by experts to be necessary for the appropriate development of a balanced individual. Physical and gross motor skills, which we all know. Fine motor skills, which we can talk about, like children learning how to tie their shoelaces, buttoning their shirts, learning how to sketch and draw, the fine motor skills. And then we talk about the sensory skills, learning how to use all our sense organs. And of course, naturally, here we talk about music, listening to music, singing, dancing, using your hands to develop clay models, learning to use all your sense organs properly. Then we talk about self-help. Children learn without being taught. They learn from each other, watching each other. They learn from their teachers, and most of the time they reason out things by themselves, and they learn to learn themselves without being really taught. Then let's go to something very important, which is language. Children learn their mother tongues on their mother's laps. And at times, like now, I'll speak about from the Indian scenario. In India, we are a country which has 22 official languages and more than 100 languages spoken in our country. We also have a language which is, none of our official languages are spoken all over the country. So as such, as a country, we don't have a national language, but we have official languages. And so there are children who are brought up speaking one particular language at home, and yet when they come to school, they may be faced with another language. And in most of the private schools of India, English is the language which is also taught to them, because I needn't go into this in detail, but we feel that English is a window to the world. And if our children learn how to speak English well, they are better equipped. So along with the mother tongue, another language is introduced in our primary classes itself. This may differ from other countries where there is only one language, and maybe they do begin with English also, if in case English is not their mother tongue, but they may begin it later. In our school, in our country, it is begun right in the beginning. So language development, mother tongue is always easily understood and spoken because it is the very first language the child hears. But when the child has to be taught another language, maybe not just one, maybe two, it is exposure to the language which helps. And if a child has that proper exposure, we can say that the child's holistic development is complete. So this is about language. The translation methods, in my opinion, never work, but it is exposure, hearing that language and learning to speak it in with little sentences and little words helps the child to start being at ease with any language he or she has to learn during their school days. Let's go to cognitive, the next domain. This, I would say, is, what do we say? It involves your conscious intellectual ability, the ability to reason, to remember, to think, and to use what you are thinking, your reasoning, your logical reasoning to come to understand and to come to decisions. So cognitive development is very important. Now here comes my favorite, emotional. There was a time when we used to talk about IQ. What is a child's IQ? How intelligent is that child? Now those things are in the past, and we prefer to talk about EQ, the emotional quotient of a child. How emotionally stable the child is, how well the child can handle problems. I feel that when we talk about the emotions, the child has to learn how to handle bullying, learn how to and learn how to be balanced, learn how to understand what is required by him, by the whole society. So this is very important. And why do children suffer with loneliness, feelings of failure, rejection? teachers themselves have to be well equipped to handle this part of their education, this part of looking after them, because it's not enough to teach the languages, mathematics and science and social science unless the child can be emotionally balanced and be able to handle problems which come his way. And for this, I would like to say it is teachers who have to have a much bigger hand than just the guidance counselors or the experts in this matter. If teachers themselves are emotionally stable, themselves do not carry their problems from home to school. I often tell my teachers in school, when you come to my school, leave your excess baggage at the school gates and then walk in with a smile. Walk in with the appropriate manner, the appropriate emotional, balanced human being that you are. Walk in so that you can help your children also to become emotionally balanced creatures, youngsters who are able to take both failure and success in their strides, who know how to handle, situations when when they are sad. So this is, I feel, is very important. My favorite topic, which I like to talk about, is how we can get children to be emotionally stable. Then let's come to the next one, social. Social, our children need to be social beings because after all, we're living in a society. Learning to share, learning to wait for your turn, learning to, participate in team sports, team games, learning the appropriate behavior, how to address an adult, how to address a friend, how to show the appropriate courtesy when you meet someone new. If we don't teach them and we don't realize, we don't give this also importance, we're not catering to their holistic development. And last of all is spiritual. It's very important. The spiritual growth of a human being, a child. I'm not talking about religion over here. Please don't mistake spiritual growth with religious feelings. Though, of course, these are all there in certain societies. Religion gives them that spiritual, those spiritual thoughts, and they get a lot of. They must realize that their souls, their spirits, their thinking abilities, their thoughts, their thought processes are often much different, are really what is their beliefs are important, other than just material things, their material things and the things they see around them. So it's just relating to your thoughts and beliefs other than just to material things in the world. You realize that there is something, and I'd like to give an example over here. In Indian homes, there is usually a small little prayer room, which maybe on special occasions or maybe on a daily basis, the children go and maybe bow their head before moving out of the house. It gives a small sense of, I'm not here saying that religion is very important, but what is important is to realize that there is a deeper spirit which requires to be nurtured by teachers. And you needn't tell them about any particular religion, but tell them how important it is to have a conscience, how important it is to think of others, how important it is for your spiritual growth to try to see the bigger picture and do good to the world. So these are just a few, please, these are just a few of the domains of holistic development, which are generally thought to be important in a child's holistic development. Maybe move to the next slide, please. So of course, when we talk about a holistic learning environment, you can see children playing together. There is, of course, the thoughts which come into our mind. It's got to be a nice classroom, a nice, attractive classroom with lots of teaching aids, with facilities for them to play games, with even technology at their fingertips so that they can use the computers. These are the thoughts which usually come to our mind when we talk about a wonderful classroom, which we feel will be required for the holistic growth of a child. And of course, a great teacher too. Without a great teacher, the classroom is not going to be of any use. But we know that the environment should be safe, supportive, and it should also give the child opportunities both in co-curricular and the academic fields to grow. At this point of time, I'd just like to tell you, my dear friends, that we had a great poet in our country. I'm sure you have heard of his name, Tagore, Ravindranath Tagore. Here was a person who had revolutionary ideas about education. The education institution which he set up called Shanti Niketan. In English, it would be translated as the home of peace. Was a school which was run in the open air. Unless weather did not permit, all classes were held in the open air under trees so that children learned to appreciate nature and they learned more from their surroundings. So we needn't only think that a classroom is the best place to teach children. Any place, if it has all the necessary components, can be considered a holistic learning, a place for holistic learning to take place. Shall we go to the next, please? Okay, I don't think I need to show this slide, but it is there. Why should we have holistic learning? So that they do perform better in studies. They can solve their own problems. They learn to become problem solvers. You put a problem in front of them and they'll come to you with 5 solutions. These are the sort of people whom we want to develop for the next century. Then, of course, their mental growth and their emotional growth. Their thoughts start moving so fast and they are emotionally stable people. And a good value system is also inculcated. They realize that it's important to have values which guide you and help you be on the right path throughout your life. They, of course, are willing to explore. They're willing to excel in whatever they do. So if we provide a holistic learning environment to our students, we are definitely catering to better 21st century learners and citizens. Next, please. Now we're going to talk about teaching practices and tools. There are so many, so I couldn't write them all down, but we all have our own practices in a classroom, out of the classroom, in the play field, on a field trip. But there are certain teaching practices which every teacher practices. So shall we go and let's look at them in detail and maybe discuss a few. There's experiential learning. And here, of course, as I mentioned before, problem solving. Children, when they learn with an experiential learning, they face problems and they find solutions. So they become problem solvers. And then they can address community problems. I would like to talk about a small community project which took place in our school many years ago. I think it's really a long time ago. There was something called pollution under control, PUC. These were little stickers which were given to vehicles which were not polluting the environment. The government of India had come up with this particular scheme, that vehicles should not be polluting the environment. So a vehicle would be tested, and if the vehicle did not pollute, would be given a small sticker. So the children of our school, each child's duty was to go in his community, meet at least five people around his house, and check their vehicles and ask the adults in the house about whether they have checked their vehicles to see whether pollution is under control in all their vehicles. This was a little community problem, which I felt the school students realized the importance of this, and especially the younger ones, the 8-year-olds, 9-year-olds, and 10-year-olds learned how important it was, that even just making a list of those vehicles and then reminding the adult maybe a week after that, I hope you have got your vehicle checked. Is your pollution under control, sir or ma'am? And I think each one was considered to be a real helper in the community following this particular project. This I'm talking about many, many years ago. Every year they come up with different projects in which they can help the community. And yes, in scientific and science fairs which are held, they can create innovative products because their thoughts move in a different manner. They learn with their experiences. Experiential learning is very important. One of the practices which teachers can definitely encourage their children, because the children don't feel that they are studying. They don't feel when they are doing this task that they are doing a homework, or they are doing a particular, or they are having to write out a report. They feel they are having fun. So experiential learning is while they are experiencing something, they are learning basically how to solve problems themselves. So shall we go? And then here there's self-guided learning. As you can see in this picture, we can see a number of children, and there's no teacher around here. The teacher is absent from this picture because these children are deciding themselves how to learn a particular topic. This is the way I have interpreted this picture. They are listening to each other, and they are trying to think of how to go about learning that particular topic. And everyone is adding their own little bit of 2 bits to it. So each child should learn at his own pace when it is self-guided learning, and different styles of learning. There are some children who learn magnificently if they do the whole thing in a project in the form of a project file. And and there may be some more children who feel that if they write down everything in points, they will be able to understand the problem better. So each different learning style should be accepted by the teacher. And then, of course, it becomes personalized according to each child. There are children in our school, and I'm sure in every school, in every classroom, there are children who have their own, they are special children, having certain maybe learning disabilities. And so the teacher has to make sure that the learning which this child does, the self-guided learning, should be appropriate to the abilities of the child. So after self-guided learning, we can talk about how we can integrate. This is, by the way, a picture of a parent-teacher meet. You can see an Indian teacher sitting over there and discussing cases with parents and the child, and everybody wanting to find out. So integrated learning is when the parent, the teacher, the student, and as well as community members and policy makers, when we, as a group, we try to make sure that learning happens. When we talk about after school classes, when we talk about inviting parents as experts to come and sit in and help the teacher, we're talking about how we can integrate. And then there is coordinating, as I mentioned, with families and parents and guardians, after school programs, summer programs. This is what is where they may be just learning theater. An integrated learning takes place if they're having a theater class. I give an example of theater, which theater was taught to students in the social science classes. Social science in our country is, of course, as in every country, made up of history, geography, civics, a bit of economics, and so on. Much of the history classes were handled with the theater program. A script would be written about that particular historical incident. The children would act out as different characters from history and ended up learning. Really, they ended up learning a lot about history, but enjoying the entire theatrical experience too. So shall we go further? And here again, and most of these things which I'm talking about actually are overlapping each other. In interdisciplinary coursework, we know that different subjects can be intermingled. Our history, geography, everything can be taught. They are interdisciplinary. When you're teaching English and grammar, you can also be teaching another subject side by side. So I feel field work, independent research, which of course we have done certain independent research projects the children have done and presented them at in competitions. I would like to talk about one research project which seemed to be quite revolutionary because it was done by a boy, a young boy of 16 years old. He did his independent research about how our environment is being polluted because of the menstrual because of the menstrual pads used by the ladies, and how there should be other options. He did an entire project about it, and it was quite surprising for many of the people because they didn't feel that a boy should be even thinking on these. It was, I mean, of course, mindsets being, but he did a proper project about it, and he presented his findings and then presented his solutions so that our environment is polluted less. Our landfills do not end up with so many, so much which could be, which is not biodegradable. Then another thing is exchange programs. Exchange programs they are not, you won't say that these are part of your any particular subject, but you end up learning so much about the culture of another country, the language, the people. And I am happy to say and proud to say that our global exchange programs and all global projects in our school are given huge importance, because we have realized that our children end up being not just Indians, but global citizens. And we need global citizens in the world of tomorrow. So exchanging thoughts. And they are not just only visiting a country, a small select group of children going and visiting a country and returning back with after seeing all the sites. No, these are sometimes online projects. Sometimes these are the children together make websites. There is, of course, so many different aspects to it. And we have found it of great benefit in our school. And then there are internships, not very, very popular right now because of the pandemic and children being unable to physically go and do internships in different places. But online, they do learn a lot, whether it is about whether if it is in a chartered accountant's office or whether it is in a hospitality sector, the senior students do benefit from internships. So this is what I would say is interdisciplinary coursework, which helps them develop even more. Next, please. And here are some of the tools. I will not be explaining them too much because I'm sure as teachers, you do know that all about each and every one of them. Where I feel we need to talk more, I would speak about it. The interactive whiteboards are, of course, using technology properly. Acting out in role plays, I've already spoken to you about the power of theater, about the power of role plays. And these little interactive reward charts, you can see on the left-hand side, that these are very effective for the little ones. We find them when they do get stars and smileys and little, for if they have done some extraordinary work and they get it even on their notebooks or on a chart which is displayed in the classroom. It is just a very happy, they feel very happy with these little rewards which they get. And when we get feedback from parents, from the children too, and when feedback is shared, I would say self-reflection also happens. Self-reflection happens when a child is able to reflect about what he did well in and what he can do, how he can do better. I am not in favor of assessments, and though they are, of course, part of our education system, but I feel instead of the teacher assessing a child, if a child assesses himself, assessments and evaluations should be, though they are part of the tools which we use, and we cannot remove them because these are the requirements of the education board or the education ministry, the roles, what each school is supposed to assess and evaluate their children. But I am very much in favor of children doing self-assessment after doing self-reflection. Next, please. And here are some more additional tools. I have found all these very, very useful. They are not just only sports. This is not just only running in the ground, playing football or cricket or other games, but yoga, physical exercises, and now mindfulness strategies. Mindfulness is being mindful, is being able to live in that particular moment. It's slightly different from normal meditation, and it is considered to be very therapeutic. Mindfulness, accepting your mental state at that particular time by focusing on the present moment. And this can be achieved in class also, when children are told to be mindful. And then, of course, there's meditation also, when children and teachers themselves meditate or think on any particular, sometimes they are asked to imagine different scenarios, a beautiful garden, butterflies, and the scent of, the fragrance of flowers. Often we do feel that these things help to calm a student, maintain a very calm and happy atmosphere in the classroom, which is what is required for proper learning to take place, for the holistic development of a student. I feel that we have come to nearly the end. Miss Geeta, can we have the next slide? Yes, I wanted to end with this small little quote by Maria Montessori. The education of even a small child, therefore, does not aim at preparing him for school, but for life. This, if we all remember this, I'm sure as teachers, we will be better equipped to handle our children. We are not preparing them to get 90% in their examinations, but we are preparing them to better deal with the problems of life and to be better human beings. This, I think, this is what I think. And I have seen that there have been quite a few questions and a few viewpoints being expressed. Miss Geeta, unfortunately, I cannot see the chat box. If you could read them out, and at least so that we can discuss them. And my dear friends, I would love to have your opinions also.
Hi, Miss Aggarwal. I'm April from Singapore. I shall be handling this part of the session where we will moderate.
Please go ahead.
Really, thank you so much for sharing your insights with us. I've really gotten a lot of takeaways, especially when you mentioned about exposing children, and also talking about emotional quotient and making them emotionally stable. That was really something that struck me, and I will carry that out in my lessons in future. So yeah, we have a lot of participants keying in their questions. So I shall read it out for you. All right, so the first question actually comes from a participant. She actually mentioned, okay, she has a question. How can we handle a spoiled child through holistic education?
A small child through holistic education.
A spoiled child.
A spoiled child.
Yes, a spoiled child. Yeah.
Okay, now I will just speak from my own experiences. Being a principal, having been a teacher, and having seen many spoiled children in front of me. I will make you laugh by telling you a little incident which happened with me. I was visiting a school, one of my own school, in one of the classrooms. And there was a very naughty boy over there who was having tantrums, who wanted to go home, did not want to study. He was thoroughly spoiled. And he saw me and he realized that I did not approve of his behavior. He was stamping on his feet. So he tells the teacher, there's another teacher in the classroom, please tell this ma'am to go away. He did not like my disapproving look. And so the teacher comforted him and told him that, listen, we are all here for you. And if ma'am, as you say, ma'am is looking at you disapprovingly because of your behavior, it's not because she doesn't like you. She just doesn't like your behavior. And that teacher was such a sensible teacher. She immediately started a group game in which each child had to do something. Maybe it was taking a little ball, a red ball, throwing the red ball into somebody's lap and saying, now tell me one object which is the color red. What object? And so the child said an apple. Then something was thrown to that very spoiled child's lap, a blue ball. And the child was told, now say something which starts with blue, something which is in blue in color. Then he looked around and he said the sky. And he forgot about misbehaving in the classroom because he was made to engage in a group game which made him stop thinking about misbehaving and wanting to go back home at that point.
I see.
Different strategies, but this is one strategy which worked.
Yes, absolutely. Engaging the child in order to prevent, or is a proactive approach to prevent misbehavior. Yep. Okay, so there's another question. Don't you think sometimes it is good for students to get bored? Not everything in life is fun. What do you say about this?
I couldn't agree more. It is very necessary for us to be bored at times. When we are bored, we do not need to be constantly engaged. When we were little children, pardon me for talking about a time which is very much in the past, we did not have, of course, video games or television on demand. When we were bored, we sat and made toys for ourselves. We sat and invented games for ourselves. And we ended up thinking of situations. We became more imaginative. We didn't require the screen in front of us to find make-believe games. We were able to, we were dragons ourselves. We were soldiers. We were dragons. We used to put a bed sheet over 2 beds and pretend that is a house. Our imaginative games were all because we were bored. It is necessary for a child. A child need not be entertained 24 hours in a day.
Thank
The child
you.
has to learn to be to make some effort to be amuse himself.
Yes, that really bring back very fond memories I have. I also used to be that, playing with blankets and bed sheets. All right, the next question is, you have mentioned that your favorite topic is on how we can teach our students to become emotionally stable. What would be your number one approach or practice or technique to achieve emotional balance?
Okay. Emotional balance.
Yeah.
Every child has different problems. You do not know what problem the child is facing at home. You do not know what exactly happens to him when he enters the classroom. There are different problems we all have. But if we all manage to find a small oasis in the desert, just like an oasis, if we find some time to forget all those problems and to be immersed in some pleasurable activity. In my school, we have a system of meditation twice in a day. Before the classes begin and when the children return after having their lunch break. There is, on the public address system, a 5 minutes meditation is organized, and the children are asked in their classrooms to sit comfortably, put their hands on the table and not do anything with their hands, close their eyes, and their breathing is, the teacher tells them, breathe in and now breathe out. Breathe in and breathe out. Try to imagine the beautiful blue sky. Think of the clouds floating by. Imagine you're a bird and you're trying to fly higher and higher. Any different conversations, different thoughts are spoken every day. But the children at that point of time just close their eyes and are not playing or fiddling around with their hands. Those 5 minutes of meditation or mindfulness maybe also makes them a little more calm. When you are calm, you can be a little more emotionally stable. You are not ready to fight with your friend or throw something at another child over there or make faces at someone else. That little effect lingers on for a little time. And especially when the children return back after running in the fields and they are very excited and breathing heavily and, sometimes in a boisterous mood. This particular activity helps to calm them down and promotes a little more emotional stability to them for the remaining hours which they have to study in school. This is an example of what happens in my school.
That's very nice. Thank you for sharing. Okay, then the other two, there's 2 other questions that are kind of like related, so I'm gonna group them together. So, the first question is, once a teacher is facilitating a self-guide learning, should she group the students homogeneously? What she meant was, should a fast learner sit with other fast learners and vice versa? And a similar question would be also regarding the needs of students in a class. So are there any strategies that teachers can use to help students of different needs to develop their full potential?
Okay, this is a question which has been argued many times by teachers, by other experts, that there was a time in not in my school, but in other schools, they would try to make, if supposing you had 90 children of different varying abilities, some you would grade, say in grade A and some in grade B and grade C, as teachers sometimes have the habit of doing. That particular school put all the A graders in one section, all the B graders in one section, and all the C graders in one section, reasoning that the children who were A graders were already at a higher intellectual level. So they needed more challenges of a higher variety. Then there were the children of B grade who required both a little bit of help and also some challenges. And the children in the C grade category required more help, more sort of spoon feeding from the teacher. Otherwise, they felt that those children would always seem to be third class citizens, or if they were in a batch of children who were very intelligent and moving much faster, these children would end up feeling neglected and feel low, as sometimes would feel as failures. This was one school of thought. There's another school of thought which I am more is what I feel appropriate, is that children should be together, because children have to learn from each other. They have to learn from their differences. They have to learn that each one is different. Somebody may be very good in mathematics, but not good in art at all. Somebody may be has a lovely voice, and the others who can't sing at all. So unless you learn to live together, accept each other's differences, you do not become, it's not an inclusive classroom. And this is what we aim at today, to have inclusive classrooms. Another thing is that we have a system called a buddy system. There are always children, there are always a group of two children who are always made as buddies. And the teacher is supposed to make them as buddies. And usually they're sitting beside each other in the classroom and they complement each other. If one is having difficulty with one particular subject, the other child is able to help him. And if that child has a difficulty or it needs to be sensitized, sometimes children need to be sensitized to others' problems. So they are made buddies, and their duty is to help each other. Nobody is the superior or the inferior in that relationship, but they are both buddies, buddy A and buddy B. So this is what we feel is a better system than separating children according to their abilities.
Thank you. All right. Oh, we have time for one more question. So I'm gonna pose this question to you. It's by one of our facilitators. She agrees with the idea of giving tasks according to the abilities of the child. I think previously you mentioned. So would you
excuse me, I didn't catch it.
So she said that she agreed with the idea of one of the possible way to give tasks according to the abilities of the child. So would you be able to recommend, like, until what age should we give tasks this way, and what to do if a child needs to achieve some skills and competencies to pass an exam, a state test or other? How to deal between these two approaches to teach according to possibilities of students and preparing them for a particular exam? Thank you.
Okay. Now let me talk about the examination first. As we talked about in my, I'm only giving you examples naturally from the school in which I'm the principal. There are some senior students whose duty it is to be mentors. So when they find a group of students who are facing difficulty in understanding a particular topic in science, it is the duty of that mentor to take that group of, say, 5 or 7 students into the laboratory and to help them understand through experiments. Because when a child teaches a child, it is easily and much, they are very happy to accept it. So we find that this way, sometimes children who are facing, who are academically weak, if they have a mentor in a senior class whose duty it is, even if it's once a week, it needn't be on a daily basis, but once a week, if that mentor comes to the class and picks up and takes a group of, say, and if there are 5 mentors and the class can be divided in 5 groups, 5 different mentors can look after the academic requirements, which will be better achieved than with that one class, than with that one teacher in the classroom. This is about preparing them or helping them achieve a particular target. Now about examinations, we have a system called remedial classes. a remedial classes timetable is specifically made taking into consideration the requirements of each particular child. One child may be having difficulties only with a language like Sanskrit. One child would have it in mathematics. So little groups are also formed, and the teachers have after school hours. They take special classes with them to bring them up to the standards. This is, I'm talking about the academic growth of the child, the academic achievements which he or she can achieve. I'm sorry, the first part of your question was related to, I'm sorry.
Yeah, the first part of the question is related to giving the task to children according to abilities.
Yes,
so
yes.
Yeah, so should to what age should we?
I will give an example about this. I will give you an example. And this is an example of the pandemic. During the pandemic, this is not an example of the classroom setting. You're all aware that children are not coming to school these days. And if they do come, it's only the senior most children, and that too, if their parents allow them to come, other children are not coming to the school. So during this pandemic, the very little children in our school, the 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds, and 6-year-olds are sitting at home, and they are having these online classes they're using through their computers. But we realized that these children need to develop their writing skills, and they are not writing, properly, because it's very important to develop proper control over the gross motor skills, the fine motor skills also, and learn how to write the alphabet the correct way, and to learn how to do sums. And children feel so happy. So the teachers asked the parents to drop 2 notebooks to the school gate. As they were passing by, the teachers took these notebooks and set 5 pages of written work in those notebooks, and the parents could come anytime they wanted and collect it. After 1 month, come and submit them again. So when they saw the written abilities of the different children, they realized that some children have a much higher written ability and some are just struggling. So they are giving them work according to their, even during this pandemic, these notebooks which are given to them once a month, which they return back after 25 days, are according to their abilities. No children are being forced to proceed in the same manner. If one child is writing 4-letter words and one child is still at 2-letter words, that's at. Another child can write a full sentence. I am at home. The child can write a full sentence, and yet there's a child who's only struggling with 2-letter words and 3-letter words. So the teacher gives them work accordingly and recognizes their efforts with little stars, with little smiley faces, with a good effort remark on the notebook. So this is how the little children are being taught at different depending upon their abilities.
Okay, really, thank you so much for sharing. It has really been insightful for not just for me, I believe it is for all the participants. And with that, we have come to the end of your sharing, this webinar. And really, from the bottom of hearts, really sincerely thank you for the very insightful sharing, as well as introducing us to the different practices and the tools that we can use. And they are definitely practical for all of us to transfer into actual practices in the classrooms. So with that, well, it's virtual. I cannot, but I can represent everyone to put our hands together and thank Miss Anjali for this session. Thank you. So we shall move on.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for listening to me so patiently.
No worries. It's a joy to listen to you. All right. So thank you, Miss Anjali. So we are going to proceed to the next segment. Thank you.
Bye-bye.